there's a point to the next debate which is a little different. It's not left and right, although it is left and right. It's also younger and older, male and female. In the studio with me is the Federal Labor member for Chisholm, former Speaker in the Parliament, one of the few politicians who speaks like a real person. Anna Burke, good morning.
Morning. Now, I'm taking offence to being the older person in the room, but never mind.
Well,
I'll move on. I'm 48.
Okay.
I'm much older, so I declared on Q&A on Monday night. But,
you got a word in. And with the Director of Development and Communications, Institute of Public Affairs, James Patterson, how old are you?
26.
And you are male.
True.
And you're not
guilty.
You're not to the left.
No, certainly not.
All right, we'll get to Q&A in a moment, but the starting point, we've had these figures on the ice pandemic this week. Over 5 years, a 1,000% increase in the number of call-outs for AMBOs on ice-related issues. It is a massive problem. Is it time to rethink it, James?
Yes, I think one thing that is absolutely clear is that the war on drugs has failed. Drugs are widely available. They are extremely dangerous. We spend an awful lot of taxpayers' money on police, policing the availability of drugs. And because we've driven it underground and made it criminal, it's also highly profitable for the kind of people you don't want to be making money out of this. So I think very clearly some kind of new approach is needed.
What is it?
I think we need to trial decriminalisation of lower risk, lower end drugs like cannabis. That's a first step.
What has that achieved with ice if you decriminalise cannabis?
Well, in Portugal, in fact, they actually decriminalised heroin and stopped prosecuting people for possessing and using heroin, and the number of people who are dying from heroin overdoses and related issues dramatically declined.
Anna Burke?
Oh, look, I think we need to step away from a war on everything. I don't think it helps anybody having that terminology. There's an issue out there. My husband's been an AMBO for many, many years, and he can tell you firsthand that there's been an increase in this. And one of the scary factors is the actual people on ice are quite violent. Somebody who's, had heroin's usually quite compliant. They're in a bit of a nod. They're in a bit of a sleep. I mean, I don't mean to trivialise it, but from an ambulance point of view, dealing with somebody who is out of control on ice is quite scary, quite confrontational.
I was talking to an AMBO yesterday who said, and you're right, he said, you're dealing with a heroin case and you give them some Narcan, they usually wake up and say, thanks for saving me, and off they go. You're dealing with an ice case, he said it's usually 2 ambulances, several police cars, and somebody holding the person down while they're treated, and they have to go to hospital.
Yeah, and it's quite scary. It's quite out of control. It's usually also in a crowded environment, a nightclub or somewhere else. So there's lots of people around. It's very dangerous.
So what do we do? I mean, what if we have a different approach? Do you agree with decriminalisation?
I think we need to explore lots of things, but it goes back to, at the end of the day, why do people start and try going onto drugs anyway? I never think we look at the causational root of these things. I think decriminalisation, opening up spaces where people can use in a safe environment is a way to go. That has been trialled successfully across Australia, and New South Wales have had success with that. But ice is a different drug. Ice is a very different drug and used in very different circumstances to the other trials that have been seen around the world. So I think it is actually going back, talking to the experts and saying what works and how.
Well, I don't know. 96900 693 13 13 32. Would you support decriminalisation of other drugs in part of the attack on ice? Now, James, why does decriminalising, you're saying decriminalise cannabis, which is a pretty dangerous drug in itself.
Absolutely. And look, I'm not a drug user and I wouldn't seek to use drugs if they were decriminalised. But there is a spectrum of drugs in how dangerous they are to the human body. And, we have cannabis at one end and we have things like ice at the other. Part of the reason why ice exists and part of the reason why it was invented is it can be made much more easily than some other drugs. And if other drugs were legal and widely available, not as many people would be going and trying to make ice. They want to get some kind of high. It's not legal to get a high, so they look for something that they can do themselves in their own homes or in a pretty simple workshop. And ice is one of the things that can be done. We've all seen Breaking Bad. It's not actually that sophisticated a process.
I haven't.
Oh, you should say it's quite entertaining.
Hello,
Quite
Barry.
scary.
Yes, Barry, go ahead.
Neil, we need to stop this stupid thinking. We can't decriminalise this sort of drug. This is killing our kids. This is killing our society.
No, but the argument, Barry, the argument is not to decriminalise ice, but to decriminalise other drugs in hope that cuts them. No?
No, this is stupid thinking. This is killing our nation. and we're allowing it. This is what happened to China. If you remember what happened to China and how they were destroyed by opium, it is exactly what is going to happen to our nation if we allow it to continue.
But hang on, Barry. You're saying that it's killing our kids now. Well, how's the status quo working out? How is making it illegal now working out? Not very well for a lot of kids.
Well, what about ecstasy? You want to decriminalise ecstasy too?
I think you would start with cannabis and you would look at other drugs like ecstasy. Ecstasy is a terrible drug as well, but it is not anywhere near as serious as heroin and ice are. So there's a whole spectrum there.
One of the difficulties with the whole debate, though, is that there'll be a lot of experts will now come on and say, look, long-term cannabis use is really detrimental to you. There's been psychological problems with it if in a long-term usage, and we really don't know because it's never been really studied. So you need to have really, really solid information, solid expert advice and health advice in this area. Otherwise, you'll just open Pandora's box and we'll be back to another war, and no genuine outcomes benefits will be there.
We will take a break, come back with more of the debate. Other issues you want to raise too, the bump. Anna Burke, you're a football supporter.
I am.
Do you support the bump?
I haven't seen visualisation of this. I think football's a contact game.
Visualisation.
Visualisation.
Giving you a big rap saying you speak English.
Sorry. Well, I just haven't seen. So I'm having problems with ears and their headphones at the moment. I feel like I'm talking into my own head. It's just really quite bizarre. So please forgive me, but I haven't seen the pictures of this incident. But footy's a contact game. That's why we love watching it.